other, I'm having some issues getting the agenda up, but
You want me to send it to you, John?
nah, you could, but yeah, do that. I'm just wondering how I'm gonna open it up on this screen as well. Yeah, come in. Yep, so
See if I can grab that here.
all right, so we'll open the meeting. Telesco's on, so you've got everybody that's here. So why don't we just start by doing the Pledge of Allegiance? Alan, why don't you lead us in the pledge, Al? Here's the flag up here, guys.
Oh,
Hey,
perfect.
well done. Thanks.
Very good.
I pledge allegiance
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States
United
of
States of
America
America,
and to the republic
republic for which it stands,
stands, one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So Telesco has the agenda. So what's the first thing on the agenda? Besides the pledge and attendance?
I'm sorry, are you on application review agenda or are you on the harbor?
No, Harbor first.
Harbor first, and then we move right into application review.
Okay. Call to order, pledge, the roll call, and then application review.
All right, so at this point, we'll move it right into application review. John, you're up.
Okay, all right. No, thank you very much, John. All right, without further ado, our first application is at 19 South Beach. It's a CAM application. Mr. Perkins, who is the applicant, proposes to elevate an existing dwelling of 5 feet in order to comply with the FEMA flood regulations. And as part of the project, the applicant proposes to reconstruct a front covered porch, relocate an existing 1-car garage, and add a rear yard porch with an open pergola. Let's see, the proposed improvements will expand the existing footprint by about 148 square feet. Further, the applicant plans to replace the dwelling's existing flat top hip roof, and in addition, bring the dwelling into FEMA compliance. Let's see, the proposed project will decrease the site's impervious area by about 146 square feet and improve its drainage by decreasing the peak flow, as well as the runoff volume leaving the site. So, and I think Mr. Blank, is it Mr. Blank?
Yes, sir.
If you want to give a quick review of the project,
Yeah. That would be great. I'm going to share my screen. It may take a second for it to load up. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, so the project, as was said, we're at 19 South Beach Drive. You got Bailey Beach over actually here and Roaiton Point. So the Crescent Beach Road is here, and then it backs up to the water here. That's the quick view of the property. I'll give you just a run through. This is what's the proposed some renderings of the proposed structure. And I'll just quickly scroll through these and then give you a little more detail in just 1 second. And while I'm scrolling through those, I'll stop sharing for a second. The team, again, Adam Blank, the attorney for the project. We do have the architect, Chris Dodaro, is here, and Lenny DeAndrea and Brian Smith, the engineers, are also on the Zoom. And I don't think that unless you need a presentation from them, they're primarily here to answer questions, but they can give a presentation if you feel that that's necessary. On the project itself, I think it was pretty accurately described. I can show you if you'd like to see. This is I can zoom in so it's a little clearer. The garage, this was the garage that's moving a few feet over. The porch that's getting added on here. And then up in the front, this is a covered first floor porch. Generally speaking, it's a nominal, increase in floor area for the structure. It's not a tear down. It is actually being lifted. and then just updated with a little bit of an addition and movement, but a total decrease in impervious area. And then with the drainage improvements, it'll actually have a lower peak flow and volume. That's the gist of the project. There'll of course be silt fencing in temporarily while the work is performed. We don't see it having any adverse impact on coastal resources or the harbor. And we think it'll actually be an improvement once it's FEMA compliant.
No, that's basically it. Obviously the Harbor Commission, as far as most of these CAM applications concerned, is actually water runoff and as you pointed out, decreasing impervious surfaces that might affect Norfolk Harbor. But I think you've certainly answered that question, and sort of the report from DeAndrea's has answered those questions as well. Hi, Jeff. Yes.
I think the only major concern the commission would have is stormwater management.
Yeah, that's what
And if the applicant is making an improvement, a significant improvement, then we would find this, I think, consistent with the harbor management plan, which calls for measures to protect or improve water quality. So perhaps if you could just explain what the stormwater treatment measures might be, and why you say that this will, besides the reduction in impervious areas, why you think this will have an improvement on stormwater conditions.
Sure, and I'm going to let the real expert here, Brian Smith, the engineer, answer that question if that's okay.
Hello, Commissioner Brian Smith from DeAndrea Surveying and Engineering, for the record. What we did was we utilized the stormwater exemption due to the decrease in impervious coverage from existing to proposed conditions. What we wanted to do, since there is minimal earth movement for this proposal, we're really just lifting the house and making some minor improvements. There's not going to be any grading. So when you combine a decrease in impervious coverage with no earth topography manipulation, that's how we experience the decrease in peak flow rate as well as the volume. We did not add any subsurface chambers or any water quality units to this, because we felt that what the project scope really needed, we were able to apply the exemption to this project, and then we were able to meet the Norwalk regulations for stormwater management. We didn't really want to get into digging holes and excavating in areas where we didn't really have to on this application.
And the engineering department has agreed then and signed off on this as or does that still have to take place?
I'm sorry.
Sorry, Brian.
Go ahead, Adam.
It meets their standards. They have not given us their sign off yet, but it does. We don't anticipate any issue with that. And if they didn't sign off, then the zoning commission won't give us our site plan approval.
Well, then I think that the consideration of the commission could be either consistent with the plan or no objection with provided the engineering department determines it meets all city stormwater requirements. So I guess the question would be whether you'd want to find it consistent with the plan as a result of the stormwater improvements that have been presented, or just have no objection to it.
Yeah, well, I have no problem with going ahead with no objection with the approval of the zoning commission with regard to stormwater runoff.
No objection, John, or consistent with the
Well,
plan?
basically consistent with the plan.
It's not providing any specific stormwater management measures. It's just reducing impervious
surfaces. That's
services
right.
and
I think you'll have to mention that they're applying for an exemption, and that our determination will be based on a review and the sign off by DPW.
Can I add one thing for the record? I want to make put on the record that we are mimicking pre-existing discharge points for all roof drains, and we're not manipulating any site topography, so we won't be changing any of the existing drainage patterns.
yeah.
We're simply just stating that the water will reach its location at a slightly slower rate and at a slightly smaller volume. but water that today travels to where it's going will continue to go to those areas. So, you know, a neighbor won't be seeing any more water at a faster rate than anybody is today.
I see.
And that's why I just suggested whether the commission wants to just have no objection to it or say it's consistent with the plan, since it's going to essentially maintain existing conditions.
That's correct.
So that's, I could see if there was a substantial, like, stormwater treatment, subsurface chambers, and that would make a major change to what's there now, then that clearly would be something consistent with the plan, which calls for improvements. Here, it's up to what you feel.
I mean, I think we'd have to put no objection, but subject to.
Yeah,
That's correct.
Provided the engineering department bureau determines it meets all city stormwater requirements.
That's correct. That's correct. Yeah, we can go ahead with that. You know, like I said, we do have in our review, harbor management plan, you know, that, you know, obviously are concerned about potential adverse impact on stormwater runoff. And so, you know, you certainly have addressed that, and certainly best management practices during the construction process
Yes.
as well. You know, you had mentioned that as
Yes.
well in the application. And so, you know, and again, we do support implementation of runoff reduction and the low impact development practices, you know, for city stormwater management requirements. Again, I'd like to go forward with a proposal then that.
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion, Sean, that we find no objection with the plan and pending approval by the city, all the city agencies.
All those in favor? Any objection, any abstentions? No? All right, so moved.
And also,
Chris?
thank you for the project team to come to the commission meeting tonight. It's a big help to have that explanation made during the meeting that you did.
Thank you for
Appreciate
having
it.
us.
Chris, did you have a
No, I was just chiming in because I was muted and my camera was off. So
well,
I'm also an aye.
we didn't mute you, Chris.
I was muted.
Oh, okay. All right.
Finishing my supper, guys, that's all.
All right, moving forward. All right, the next application is at 84 Seaview Avenue. And the applicant's previous proposal planned, well, the plans were to retain 121 plus or minus square foot concrete block wall in association with 110 foot of riprap along the shoreline of 84 Seaview Avenue. There are two finger floats to the north end of the dock, restore the use of an existing dock back to its, and now they put commercial marina, and I took the carte blanche of correcting that. Maybe we can address that later. In the original plan, it doesn't state commercial marina. It states a working pier or work pier. I think there's a little bit of a difference in whether it's a commercial, commercial marina versus a work pier. In any event, we can have that for discussion. And let's see, and create a public access on the northern portion of the elevated deck on 84 Seaview Avenue. The proposal includes a conversion of an existing shed on the public access deck in the northwest corner of the 80 Seaview Avenue to a marina office. And aside from the two finger floats proposed on the existing dock, no physical changes are proposed to the construct. And what the modifications and the plans were modified, I'll let Mr. Ryder, I think Mr. Ryder's here with us to discuss that. If you have the plan set up, or do you want me to incorporate what you presented to us?
I can provide the screen sharing if that's
Okay.
acceptable to you.
Yes.
Can you see what's on my screen there?
Yes.
Okay. A couple things. Like I said, we met last at September 22nd. We provided our presentation. At that time, you, the commission, had some comments and wanted to have some revisions. You formalized that in the October 2nd letter. What I'll do right now is just kind of go over those revisions real briefly so that we all know the changes, and then we can get into a discussion of any comments you have. First, we have your item number one was that there were no distances placed here along the northern end of the dock between the northern edge of the dock and the extended riparian line of the northern property border. We have added that. And there was to be a vessel here, which I mentioned in the my meeting, that I just kind of stuck it there because I thought that'd be a good place for it. You guys quickly disagreed. I removed it, not an issue. The other one was the southern extension. There's a dock here that's been existing for, I don't know, 20, 30 years. That was approved in 1997. And in the current footprint, actually it had additional floats in here that are not there. So there are additional things that have been approved that are not there. But there is an existing dock here. No changes are occurring to this dock at all in this area. You had asked it in the last meeting that we show the distance that this dock extends past the extended riparian line. We have done that here. And you had also asked for a figure of the anchorage lines, which we have done so here. And we did this in a GIS because we thought it was the most accurate way to do that. We have very accurate, as you know, northing and eastings from the government. And then we were able to put them into a GIS, which most of you are familiar with, is fairly accurate as well. Well, very accurate as well. So we were able to show that. A couple other points that I'd like to point out is that I saw in your blurb for the agenda, it was just mentioned just now that, let me get to the deck here. This deck here was originally permitted as a work deck. And there's a question about why we are asking the dock to go back to a commercial marina when this says work deck and there was no reference to a commercial marina. Back when we started this, I've been working with the DEP on this for quite some time. First of all, let me back up by saying the 1997 COP is very poorly worded. It has left much discussion back and forth on what was actually approved and whatnot. The figures were not very good. The wording was not very good. So I had to go back into the DEP and actually discuss with them at great length, you know, what was thinking and what was approved, what was not approved. And some of that is what we're correcting today. However, where it says this existing deck, which is now a public access, it was originally approved as a work deck. So I asked the DEP what that means, and that was actually a work deck that had to do with associated commercial marina. So it was kind of all put together. So it was the term that they used that was synonymous with commercial marina. So basically what they did is they approved this and the marina and the dock altogether, although again, the dock is not mentioned in some of the language as commercial, but I have verified on numerous occasions that, that the deck and the marina were all approved originally as a commercial marina. It has then gone from a marina out to more of a private thing, and now we are requesting it go back to a commercial marina. So it might be a little bit long-winded, but I hope that explains the nomenclature differences. At that point, I have these figures up here and we can discuss your particular comments on them, but these are the revised figures that were requested by you and are available for discussion tonight.
Well, I know that you're looking to make this a commercial marina. How many, and I know you've had discussions with DEEP, how many docks are permanently leased docks?
Well, we are, as part of making this a marina, now we are making it a marina so that it can remain as is. So therefore it can be compliant with the DEP's regulations, basically. So in order to do that, we are providing 2 transient slips up here. That was also part of it. Doesn't answer your question, but it kind of goes to the background. So we've added 2 transient slips up here, and then we are then making available as part of the commercial marina 1, 2, and 3 slips here. And then with this larger area in here is for larger vessels to come in and dock while they're dining at Harbor Lights or, at Overton's either. But
Right,
that's
that would be
basically how it's gonna be used.
parallel docking, correct?
Right, here, this is about 180, I guess it's 80 feet available for a large vessel to come in and parallel dock.
I mean, there are several questions and I don't, I hope I'm not overstepping my bounds, but several questions come to my mind.
Mhm.
And the 97 approval, because that wasn't a certified plan, which this is a certified plan. And it's,
I
you
can
know,
pull that up now if you'd like, and we can. If
yeah,
it's-
but what I'd like to know, because you have a program to do it, we don't. So it gives out measurements in inches 40 and inches 30. So if you could
No,
give,
no, 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 1 inch equals 30 feet and 1 inch equals 40 feet, John.
correct, that's what I just said, John.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay, inches 40 and
Oh, I see.
inches 30. It's got both representations in there for different sets of plans. But the length of the dock that's in the 97 approval, I'd like to know what that is opposed to the length of the dock in the proposal.
Well, okay, I don't actually, I mean, I could probably print it out and calculate and measure that right now. I mean, I could probably do that. But what I will say is that I have done calculations on this because the DEP wanted to know early on if the existing dock is compliant with what was originally permitted. So what I did is I went through and figured out that there is some minor changes in there, but overall, the length is identical, the widths are identical, and the footprints is actually smaller than what was originally permitted. Now, if you want that exact answer, I can probably print this out and figure out how to do that, but
Right,
I did that
ultimately,
originally
I
and
would
found
like
it to
to.
be similar.
That doesn't have to be this second. Ultimately, I would like to. And
Well-
I see that Jeff has some questions.
If I may, this is something that the DEP has also asked, and I have to answer to the DEP all these exact questions as well. I don't simply have them right now, but these are all things that I have answered to the DEP.
I think it would be interesting to just or valuable to go back a step, Tom, way before your involvement. If you could stop sharing your screen and I could get approval to share mine, that might be helpful here.
yeah, was Michelle on board? Yeah, there she is. Okay.
Yeah, let me see if I can do this right. This property, and I'll zoom in on the property, but this is a presentation that we put together concerning the history of the navigation project in the East Norwalk Basin. And between 1993 and 1996, the commission worked to survey the navigation project, the channel and the anchorage, and then petition Congress to make modifications to the navigation project, including modifications that would benefit the Overton's property as it was known at the time, because that property, the docks there encroached into the federal channel at the time. So some of this stuff I don't want to talk about now, and I'll zoom in on this, but this is a difficult to read, but it's a reduction of the survey that we hired professional surveying, Redness and Mead, to do for us back in 1993. And for the purpose of this was to identify and specify the extent of the encroachments into the federal navigation channel at the time. So here's the Overton's property here. I'll zoom in on it. But these issues are what led to the formation of the Harbor Management Commission and the preparation of the Harbor Management Plan, because the property owners, including the owner of this property, petitioned the city or asked the city to help them deal with the enforcement actions that were being taken against them by the U.S. attorney for the unlawful use of the federal navigation project. So we surveyed, we had the area surveyed by Redness and Mead to identify the extent of the encroachments. And then we proposed the modifications to the navigation project to address them. So at the time in 93, that the channel went up right along the shoreline, and Overton's docks were built into the channel. And also the bulkhead of Vantage Point was in the channel. So the channel went up here. We proposed to cut off the channel south and then make this all an anchorage, and then move the anchorage boundary away from the shoreline in order to get these structures out of the navigation project. Now, East Norwalk Boating and Yacht Club was an example of when they were notified that their docks were in the channel at the time, they voluntarily pulled them back out of the channel. So there wasn't an issue there. But we moved them away so Overton's could apply for the after the fact approval for their structures. And this is another issue that came up. We never saw the after the fact approval. The application was done through a certificate of permission, which was approved by DEEP in 1997. I sound like a know-it-all here talking about this, but we spent, many hours on this. And it was approved without comments from the Harbor Management Commission, because applications didn't have to be sent to the commission. So we didn't get a chance to comment on the fact that this end of this structure encroached into the extended right-of-way of First Street. And the application plans and the approval themselves, the approval itself doesn't have any dimensions on it. You have to scale them off, and the plans drawings weren't prepared by a professional engineer. But we never had a chance to review it. And I think if we did, we would have objected to the extension of those docks into the First Street right-of-way, because that's inconsistent with the Harbor Management Plan to preserve the opportunities for access through all of those right-of-ways. And so now, again, I'll stop. There's one more slide here. Well, that's that. I'll stop sharing my screen. But now we're dealing with what to do about. We can't lose sight of what we did a long time ago, or we get back into the same situation. So we have to maintain a proper setback from the channel boundary or the anchorage boundary, and make sure that any boats that are tied up to those structures don't encroach into the anchorage. And then the other thing, and Tom has showed the boats, two boats in the dock in the extension of the First Street right-of-way. I hadn't thought about this, but those slips are for commercial purposes. The property owner, as we understand it from DEEP is requiring them to provide some commercial slips, but those commercial slips now are located within the extended right-of-way of the city. So I think that's an issue, having a commercial use in effect the city's right-of-way. I mean, you wouldn't let someone be able to use a city park for commercial gain. So that's something I hadn't thought of until we recently talked with DEEP. And that some of this proposal is intended to compensate or mitigate or make up for the violations on the property, including the riprap and the squared off wall on the southern part. So it's not?
No.
Well, that's not what we heard this morning, that DEEP did not assess a monetary penalty against the violations, but is requiring you to provide public access.
Right, public access, we did pay a penalty, and public access is required in compensation for some of the violations that we're on.
Right.
This marina is completely separate.
But so DEEP did not ask you to provide commercial slips for people to. They didn't. Oh, that's interesting, because we understood that was part of it. But whether DEEP is requiring that or not, you still have commercial slips, two slips in the extended city right of way.
Yeah, Tom, could you go to that section of the slide that you had shown with the squaring squaring off of the property, and then
this one?
Yeah,
These are, we're not, I don't know, I mean, these are not commercial. These can be commercial, but these are just, we're just providing them for anybody who wants to rent slips. That's really the intent here, but let me get back to.
I'm sorry, but Tom, but to rent a slip, then you're a commercial entity, no?
Well, I know. but
You're
I'm saying-
charging.
Right, but I thought so. I thought this conversation was heading into more like different types of boats in here. These are just going to be small pleasure craft kind of boats. So yes, it's commercial for that perspective. I just wanted to make sure that we're all in the same definition.
Yeah.
But the question I've been asked is to show this figure here, I believe. This is the squaring off here.
yeah. Now that's the area in question as far as the DEP was concerned with
Correct,
regard to usurping. That's just squaring off of that area right there.
correct.
Right. And I thought that was the original violation.
It was.
And
Yes,
and the riprap.
in the riprap.
Well, yeah, right. But the riprap is actually listed in the DEP in the 1997 COP as being authorized.
Riprap around that corner in order to square it off.
Right, well, so, right. So that's the whole discussion that we've had with DEP about actually what was, what wasn't. We contend that the riprap was originally approved. They said, well, not all of it. So we are actually submitting this application, including that for that reason. So yes, there is a riprap is being retained, and this wall here is being retained as part of the violation that was imposed. And as part of compensation for that, we're also providing, where is it? I'm sorry. There we go. The additional public access. There's public access here, there's public access here, et cetera. So we've been spending a lot of time with the DEP, making sure that every violation, everything is compensated for in some way. And so we have different components to this application. That's correct.
Tom, look at the aerial photo that you just showed. Now, it seems though that the way when you show your plan drawing, that the boats that would be tied up to the at the southern end would necessarily extend into the navigation project.
Well, that's really just, let me show you what you're saying here. This is really just us showing boats, because the DEP says, well, if you're going to show a dock, find out and let us know where the vessels are going to be. So I went over to the CAD department and I say, kind of show some boats in there. They're not scaled or anything. We're just showing vessels in those areas so the DEP knows what's going on where.
Right, but you do realize that you're not going to have anything longer than, say, a 17-foot boat in those slips,
Well,
which is a very small percentage of the boats out in the harbor. I mean, almost none of the boats that would pull up or would want to rent from you would be in that size frame.
well, here we can go longer, but here you're right. Here there is restriction.
All the rest of them, you didn't give a dimension at the end, but the two dimensions were like 19 and 22 feet. So you don't have a lot of capacity there for any boats of any
No,
size.
the one on the end is 21 feet. I'm just measuring here on my desk here, but this from here to here is approximately 21 feet. That's correct. And then the other ones are only at 15 feet inside here.
Yeah, so they're really, that's going to be like an enforcement thing. So somebody's going to have to go out there and make sure you're only renting to Boston whalers and not to 32-foot cabin cruisers. I mean, is that a realistic thing we're going to have to enforce? Because you are going to be hanging, any real vessel on the market there is going to be hanging out into the channel, into the
Anchorage.
into the Anchorage Basin. Yeah.
Well, we're going to have to work through. These are the questions that I've been working with DEP on still since you have raised them. And I have to now, there's additional questions based on your commission that I am now addressing with the DEP. So we are taking these seriously, obviously, and the DEP is as well. And we have to go through and figure some things out and work some things out.
Right,
within
Tom,
the
but
confines of the
I'm sorry
regulations.
to interrupt, but I think that there is a significant issue if you're renting slips in effect in city property or in the city right of way. And I don't see how the Harbor Commission could agree to that, to using, in effect, using the city's littoral rights area for
Well, that
for a
would be
commercial purpose.
consistent with our plan, Jeff, right?
Well, it's more than that, John. It's
But yes, we don't, I mean, we can go back to, there are other issues with regard to commercial rentals in city property. We want to go back to that issue
Yeah,
before.
but that's not allowed.
I know that. That's why there was a big blow up of on the visitors dock.
And I also think that even though that extension into the right of way was permitted or approved in the 1997 approval, which the commission didn't get a chance to review at the time, insofar as some of this work is being done in response in large part to a violation, I think the thing the commission could consider is recommending that any extension into the city right of way be removed.
If I may, here's the perspective of the applicants. The applicants purchased this property, I wish I probably had it, I guess 2012 or something like that. Anyway, they had purchased it a while back. And this ramp, dock, float, everything was already in place. They purchased that. They had a permit for it. They purchased the property. They said, great, we can use this and move forward with it. Then we had these violations in here, so now we are basically addressing them. So from the perspective of the applicant is that we had an approved dock, we have an approved waterfront, we had a violation which we're now addressing. We're not doing anything really to modify the dock except for to bring it back into compliance with the DEP. And it's been all their entire expectations that everything is fine and that they can continue to do this once they resolve the violations with the DEP. So that's the perspective of the applicants moving forward with this. So these questions about, modifying the dock and all that kind of stuff is new to them and not something that they were expecting because, like I said, they purchased the property with their approved dock.
And that may be the recommendation of the Harbor Commission now as necessary to resolve the violations.
Well, there isn't any violation with the dock. The violation of the dock was with the use, not with the physical structures of it. The violation was over here, which is being compensated for elsewhere.
Well, those are my thoughts. We have to maintain an appropriate setback from and make sure that that's maintained from the navigation from the anchorage. And I think that my suggestion is that the commission should not be approving of a commercial use within the city's extended public right of way. And then the commission could consider as a condition of correcting this violation that the extension of the dock into the city's right of way be removed. I mean, these are that I'm raising are just considerations for you. But
I think it's very timely, Jeff, because we've been out looking at these street ends and to find better ways to improve our harbor access for the ordinary folk in Norwalk, and this is a terrific opportunity, particularly because of the commercial vitality that's there right now with Overton's, Harbor Lights, Mr. Frosty, Not Norm's, Partners, and all those activities there to have a place to get to the water, could be for kayaking, all kinds of things. And those are things we're really looking to get grant revenue for to see what can be done there to make this available for waterfront usage for everyone.
I don't know. I think looking at the plan, it's that 16-foot encroachment is bad enough. Then you exasperate it by putting another boat on the other side, which it takes up about half of the city's right of way. And, I guess in legal terms, they would call that undue enrichment because it's not theirs in terms of use. It's the city's right of way, and they'd be earning off of that city's right of way. And then on the other side, there's a concern, and it's been expressed by some, that you've removed the boat on the northern side, but what makes you stop using it unless you put a fence up there or something to prohibit the use?
Well, I may add that there is a vessel parked right here that goes under our repairing line very commonly from the marina to the north. And I have a picture of that that shows it, and that's fairly routine. So there's actually a vessel parked right here as well. So the violation, I mean, not violation, but the use of this space here, if we're not allowed to use it, they shouldn't be allowed to use it either. I'm just so that they maintain uniform safety.
Well, to eliminate somebody from pulling up to that northernmost spot, then that finger, I think Commissioner Lori Jones mentioned that that finger, to address that finger shouldn't be there, shouldn't be installed. And you're talking about the extended riparian line, the existing work deck as was originally made, so that apparently extends beyond that line, does it not? And what is going to happen with that deck?
Nothing is going to happen to that deck. We are maintaining it as, let me go back to, if I'm, oops, wrong direction. There. This deck will remain as a public access. And as we mentioned in the last meeting, people currently walk over this parking lot through here and then onto this deck, which is well, actually they walk this way. It's kind of unsafe. So we are dedicating through signage, which will have to be through the permits and shown and enforced. There will be a 4-foot wide public access here, which will then extend onto this public access here. So nothing physical will change except for this shed here will be modified interior, not the footprint, but the interior side of it, to act as kind of an office area for this marina. But other than that, there are no changes or any proposed changes to the physical aspects of the deck.
But you're commenting, Jeff, on the aspect that it encroaches on over the riparian line? That
Correct.
property line, yeah,
Right.
about 4 feet, probably.
Well, don't know, but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know what the scale is here, but, say 2 to 4 feet.
Well, I can figure that out right now for you if you're interested. I mean, while the discussion is going.
So planning and zoning okayed that,
2
or?
feet, about 2.5 feet at the most point and 1.5 feet at the eastern point.
Okay. But needless to say, it's hanging over that line. And do we know if the approved plan, and this goes back to the same
97
question. Yeah, 97, was that done in 97 as well? Or was that done later? Because it looks, the pilings and things look a little newer than 97, I guess, but was there a permit for that deck? And what was the size of that permit, and did they go larger than that?
Well, I'm pulling up the 97 permit as I speak, and I've read this numerous times, but I'm sorry, I did not have all the dimensions, everything memorized. So let me go back here. And we have okay, there are the dimensions there. They match up perfectly. The item E shows a 50-foot wide timber work pier. And I just measured from here. Let me do it again. Yeah.
A 50 by 38 that's mentioned.
Right. This distance here is 50 feet. So that tells me that this has not been modified or extended or in any way from the original 97 permit.
But again, it extended over the line though.
I would think a permit would have to expressly say that you can extend over a property line, not just, with a dimension that maybe it should have been built further to the south. That doesn't imply that you have permission to violate a property line just because you said it built a 50-foot deck and there's now a 50-foot deck there.
Well, that's correct. As I mentioned when I started this presentation in here, I also mentioned that this permit is probably one of the worst wording permits I've ever seen.
Yeah.
There are specific things in there under the scope of authorization that list specific items and distances and dimensions. But the wording for how it's all explained and then the site plans themselves and all that stuff have been really a headache for me on my end, because I've been trying to figure this out and work with DEP on what actually was the intent and all that kind of stuff. And we're now got to that point. So I agree with you that, there's a lot of things missing or poorly worded from this permit. But the dimensions of certain structures are shown and spatially shown and are listed in the permit. So we have that to go for it.
Are there diagrams? Is there a plan in that permit, or is it just all?
I can share the permit if you'd like.
Please, I'm curious about how many fingers were approved as well.
Oh, well, let me
I just scrolled through the Google Earth history, and the number of fingers seems to have changed quite a bit over the years.
Originally, I think that was a rowboat rental
It was.
that Overton was doing.
Yes.
Yep.
Well, it wasn't
It
Overton. It was run by Bob Baran.
Right.
Hold on, I'm sorry. I'm having
Yeah,
trouble.
they had a bait shop in there and they rented
Right.
rope and small
Right.
engines, stuff like that.
Right. And I think that's why the original intent was calling it a work pier.
There we go. Now I can move it over. Now I can screen share. I'm sorry for the delay there. Let's pull this back. This is probably the, let's go right here. This is the, yeah. Believe this is, no, I kind of went through on that and I'd forgotten the actual question that I was trying to address here. But I do have the permit up here if anybody has any questions. But what was the question we're addressing?
The size of the dock and size of the deck.
Okay, well, we've addressed that, but there's
Yeah.
a reason why I pulled up. Somebody asked for a figure, I guess what it was in the.
Sure, yeah,
Probably the riparian line. The extended line.
right. Well, there's repairing issues on the north and the south. So that just shows the existing
Let me
work
see
pier
what-
to be replaced, moved and replaced.
This is the proposed. Blocks to be removed and things like that, and the existing timber pile, working pier 50 by 38. That's not probably of any value.
Go back to that.
But it didn't show the
Yeah,
repairing,
This one?
repairing line.
It doesn't show that it's encroaching either.
No,
not-
so
not
it's,
on this diagram.
This
it
one, I'm
is,
sorry to change it on you, but this shows the, which we believe to be the federal channel line as it's labeled here. This is kind of consistent
No,
with the
no, that
GIS
was-
that I have.
That's now the anchorage line. That's the federal channel line went through. The federal line was the one closest right there,
Right.
yes.
Right, these two, correct.
And this is this is an example of when the commission objected to the issuance of this certificate of permission without providing it to the commission to review. And then subsequent to that, we made the arguments that certificates of permission applications should be provided to all harbor management commissions. So this is an example of what led to deep requiring certificate of permission applications to be provided to harbor management commissions. Because if you notice on this drawing, there are no dimensions. There's no dimension of a setback from the channel line. There aren't the littoral lines extended. And we objected to this. I say we, the Harbor Commission objected to it at the time.
Well, there's a lot of plans, I'm sorry,
That
there's
it
a
was
lot of plans
approved
back
without
then.
sending it to the commission.
There's a lot of plans back then that really didn't have the level of detail that we have
Yeah.
now. We didn't have CAD, a lot of these were hand drawn. There weren't as many requirements, all that. Yeah, all that was all being formulated in the 80s and 90s, and now we have good permitting stuff. But so this is kind of consistent. It's not as good as I've seen from the other mid-90s permits, but I've seen someone similar to this. So it is what we have to work with, is really what it comes down to.
And we also have a policy in the plan that in the absence of compelling reasons to the contrary, the setback distance should be 10 feet. But we recognize that there are compelling reasons in the East Norwalk Basin because of the existence of structures that were historically permitted, well, at the time in the channel.
Right.
Well,
Well,
So that deck doesn't appear to be extending beyond the property line where you see the existing masonry seawall to remain.
Again, you're right, everything's hand-drawn. I mean, these little
Yeah.
riprap things are just kind of hand-drawn circles, and it's just kind of drawn out here, and then this is just kind of a rectangle. It doesn't, there is no scale. This is not a CAD drawing. But
Right.
again, it's what we have to deal with, but we do have the dimensions, as I mentioned earlier in the permit, that says 50 by 38, and that's what, we have to go with, and so we're doing the best we can. And again, this is the headaches that I've had to do with this particular application, not this application, but this project, is because of this particular COP, which is kind of crucial to, what's approved and what's not. And it's not a very well prepared document.
Yeah, and I think Chris's comment, and Chris, I'm not going to speak for you, if I'm wrong, let me know, but that you could say that you're going to put a 50-foot deck on there. But if it extends over 2 feet, then you should only put a 48-foot deck on.
Or build it 2 feet further to the south. That the dimension itself doesn't excuse anything. A property line is a property line.
Well, this was already, it says right here, this is existing. This was an already existing deck when this, in 1997. They were not building this deck. This deck has been here for decades. So
Right.
It wasn't something that they were approving to be built in this 97 COP. It was something that they were authorizing to be maintained and retained in the 1997 COP.
Right. So they rebuilt it, and they rebuilt it over the property line. It doesn't.
I'm not sure. Okay, I don't have that knowledge that they rebuilt it. I don't know that specifically if they did or didn't. I don't have that knowledge, but
Well, this
under my understanding that this has been this way for a long period of time. But if somebody else has knowledge that has been rebuilt, then that's something I don't know about.
Well, that plan is to remove and replace. I mean, I'm going by what their stated intent was.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Yes.
And Jeff sort of said it looked newer than.
Okay, I see what you're
Certainly
saying.
is.
I was reading that slightly differently.
Looked post 97. So given that,
Right.
this doesn't grandfather anything in, I mean, I don't like the fact that it's in the city right of way. There is a northing and easting on that corner. So I don't know if I don't know what our leg to stand on is there, if it actually has been approved in that location by DEEP. But, if you go to historic use too, we've now determined this was historically used for rowboats. Is it the owner's intent to only rent to 15-foot boats to keep it with outside of the federal channel, the federal navigation project?
Well, it's not in the channel, it's in the
Federal
anchorage.
the federal anchorage, whatever we would call it.
it's the anchorage.
Yes, it's federal though, right? I'm
Yes.
correct?
Right, that's correct. That's correct.
The vessel that was tied up to the southernmost slip finger all year was certainly larger than 15 feet. That's for sure.
Yeah.
It's actually a beautiful boat. I wish I had that one, but it's like a 24, maybe 25 foot. So it's, and that has been sitting there. I shouldn't say sitting. It's been berthed there for all season. So
Well,
they do
Gentlemen,
use it.
we have an application before us. We have several issues that we need to deal with. Certainly one is the vessel size that extends into the federal channel area and potentially extend into the federal channel area, and also the encroachment on the city's right of way with the potential commercial use of vessels in a city's right of way. So these are issues that we need to deal with and move forward with this proposal.
And Tom, you stated that DEEP is asking the same questions.
Well, what I'm stating is that we have asked many, many questions, trying to make sure this was all compliant and everything has been retained and proper regulations. your agency has brought up a couple of comments, which now I am addressing with DEP. So yes, all these questions now are on the state level.
Well,
I'm gonna stop sharing if that's okay.
Sure.
we can iterate our comments that we've made in the past with regard to the extension into the federal channel, federal channel anchorage area.
Anchorage. Mhm.
And then also the issuance as far as the city's right of way. And then, you know, like I said, our job is not to bring forward, you know, any previous violations. And again, you know, this property is extending 2 feet thereabouts into the riparian right of way of the adjacent owner to the north. So, you know, something's got to be done.
Yeah.
Well,
And the original plan didn't show that there was a southerly, most southerly boat on the end of that dock either. So you got a
No.
16-foot encroachment on, let's say, a beam of 8 to 10 feet. That makes it 24 to 30 feet.
well, you know, like anything else, John, you put a pier at the end of a dock, somebody's going to take advantage of that, and that's exactly what happened. You know, if it's there, if it's there, somebody will more onto it. But I guess adjustments clearly have to be made to this application to put it within the footprint of the owner's property.
Well, the commission's comments with respect to the pre-application consultation form previously were that additional information was needed for the commission to make a recommendation, and including the location of the navigation project and dimensions, and now and the extension of the right of way at First Street. So now the commission has that information. The commission could submit the pre-application consultation form and say, commission has no objection to the permit application being submitted and continue to review it. Or they could say that aspects of this are inconsistent with the harbor management plan and shouldn't be approved. And if you took that approach, it's just my opinion that one thing that the commission could consider saying shouldn't be approved is the commercial use of the structures in the city right of way.
It's right away.
That's a commercial gain from city property. And the other thing that you could say is that you recommend it's inconsistent with the harbor management plan to have any encroachment into that right of way, and that should be removed from the plans. Those are the two thoughts I have.
No, those have been issues that we've raised in a number of other applications in the past.
Right. But would it be up to the
So we are
commission to
consistent.
agree
We can be
that that's what they would want to
Right.
transmit to deep?
I think we should also, the application should also state the maximum vessel length, because you can't go out there and spray paint a line where the federal anchorage area is. So it's unenforceable unless the only thing you can measure is the length of the boat that's there. And if it explicitly says you can't have a boat longer than 20 feet on that dock, then that's enforceable. If you just say it can't be in the federal navigation, in the federal anchorage area, well, who's going to enforce that? How are we going to get the harbor master to enforce that? There's no stakes and spray painted line on the water. It's.
And I believe DEEP has always said that they can't specify the size of vessels that can utilize a dock, and we can check on that. But
Well, you can specify the maximum length to not encroach on the federal project.
Yes. Well, you have to check with that, Chris, because they've said before that they can't specify a maximum length of a vessel.
So it won't extend, we won't specify the length of the boat. We'll say that a boat cannot encroach more than 20 feet from the dock.
Yeah.
Because that's where the channel is. We should state explicitly where the channel is so that it is an enforceable thing and not like everything else, I mean, who's going to keep harbor lights from putting their tables in the public area on that deck? It's all very squishy, and they're encroaching in 3 different directions here. You know, if you looked hard enough, they're probably, you know, anyways.
Now, I don't know if you'll have the
I
answer
will-
to this, but it's been asked by several commissioners about the lot for Harbor Lights / Overton's being repaved,
Yeah,
It's been repaved.
and that's been done already?
yes.
Yes,
Yeah, because we never got a permit review for it. It's in the CAM area.
you did. We reviewed it. We were here.
Sue Jacobson, I'm sorry, Bailey had sent the permit down to us, the COP to us, as a matter of fact, today.
Oh.
I thought I was in front of this commission discussing that, and that's how a lot of these comments came up initially. And I was here presenting that it was just for the deck and the paving.
Right, but we didn't see any drainage plans or anything along those lines as well.
It was underwater yesterday.
That it was. I don't think there's any help with that. I don't care what kind of drainage you have.
No.
Probably not.
Well, we need a recommendation here. I mean, we can make the organic standard recommendation that we have no objection to the moving forward the plans with, again, with a caveat as far as remediating perhaps the encroachment on the city's right of way, use of commercial vessels in a city's right of way, and the distance, as Chris had pointed out, from the dock to length of the vessel to the federal anchorage area.
Well, I don't believe it's consistent with the harbor management.
Yeah.
No.
Well, we're not saying that it's consistent. I just said they can move forward with it because this is a pre-application.
But we also have the right to say that it is inconsistent with the plan. Or elements of the project are
Well,
inconsistent.
from my standpoint, and that's just my opinion, that it is, you know, because our goals and objection would be mainly to encroachment in the city's right of way.
Yeah, but to satisfy Deep, what I heard earlier today and what I'm hearing from Tom now, that they're being required to put in X amount of docks to make it a commercial marina.
No,
You just said they weren't required to do that.
right. What I had said was that, so we are making this a marina to make it compliant with the regulations of the DEP. We then were required to put in 2 transient slips. That was the requirements that they had, and various other components of parking and all that kind of stuff. But for the dock itself, we were required to put in 2 transient slips. What I then did was put in boats, vessels on the figure to show where these vessels can be rented, these slips can be rented, to allow a further discussion with the DEP. There was no minimum or maximum ordered by the DEP on that front.
Well, so with the 2 transient dock requirement by DEP, you're showing 4, so
2.
I don't know how that'll all wash out at the end.
4 or 5.
I'm showing 2.
No.
The transients are 2. It
Oh.
showed 2 transient. So Tom, do you know if the transient Harbor Lights or Overton's going to charge for docking up there so that?
Not for transient, we're not allowed to. I mean, that's the whole reason for transient. Is anybody, so it's basically, it's a water extension of the public access deck. Anybody can go on there, have their lunch, McDonald's or whatever, sit down, have lunch, whatever, and then leave. Same way with these transient slips. Anybody can come in, as long as they're in a boat, they can come in, use that vessel, that slip. They can go on land and go shopping, whatever, and come back in their boat. And so that is the whole reason for the transient slips and why they were required by the DEP.
So no time limit, no nothing. They could stay all day.
That's, yeah, the time limit is what we are allowed to do that. And it's, you know, the deck is probably going to be till dawn till dusk type of thing, because, you know, even though there's a limited liability on there, there is a risk for somebody, being drunk at 2 a.m. and blasting music, whatever, and it's public access. But so there are some limits on here that the DEP is working with us on. And so we're probably using dawn till dusk on that. And we're probably, there is going to be some limits. You can't just park your boat here for, a week and then, go off somewhere else. So we're going to be, there is going to be like a couple-hour limit or something like that we're going to have to do. But the intent is to have public access to land from water and from water to land.
So I
And you
Does
believe
the
also
sign
have a
currently
lock
say that
gate
it's
there.
only for Harbor Lights
I'm sorry,
participants?
what?
Isn't the current signage though, that it's only for Harbor Lights?
The dock or the deck, or what are we referring to?
Yeah, no, I think the signs when you pull up to those docks, and again,
Oh, right.
don't,
Because
it just
currently-
says
right,
for
I
Harbor
agree with
Lights
you.
use only.
This is being proposed, Matt. Yeah, you're
Right.
right.
That's how they deviated from the original application in the first place. It was a marina. We bought it, they bought it long ago, and they made it private. And so there are signs for that, which now have to be changed based on this
Okay.
application.
I just missed that part. I want to make sure.
No, it was
Thank
not
you.
discussed, but you're correct.
The dock access is fenced off and locked, the lock gate, I believe, as well.
It won't be, but because people have to have public access to and from the deck and to the water.
I think in general, finger slips are problematic there because you will invariably get an infringement on there's just not enough space there for boats.
Well, keep in mind that we took out like 4 or 5, I didn't count them. We had on the 97 permit showed, I don't know, 5 or something.
For rowboats was the current usage at that point.
Right,
not
okay,
gonna-
well, we took all those out, right. I was just pointing that
Right.
out.
I mean, there's room for 4 or 5 vessels, stem to stern, bow to stern along the dock, which would not infringe on the federal anchorage. But slips, invariably, there's just not enough room there for slips.
Well, we can
I
make.
mean, You could drop a bunch of parking spaces and say, well, everybody's going to park a Fiat there, but inevitably you're going to get an SUV that's going to stick its ass out into traffic. I mean, that's what we're looking at here. There's not enough space there for the modern boat, for the boat will invariably be used there. And it won't be policed, and it will be perpetually in violation.
I will offer this, is that the DEP, as you know, these things take a year and a half to go through and do. The DEP takes these very, very seriously. They are now looking at these from a number of different, now that their actually application has been submitted, well, we're in the process now. To do this, they are looking at all of these things very, very carefully. And we now need to take your recommendations, any comments that you have, and I need to have these discussions now with DEP. And that's really what it comes down to. And, they actually admitted to me that, that this, not sending it to you guys long ago in the 60s and 70s, whatever, that wasn't right. And they fixed that. And so now they're, utilizing you as the local experts in here, and then they're the state experts, and it's all a big part of the process, and that all works well. And they realize that. And so I need to take all these comments and flush them out with the DEP and find a way to make sure that everybody, all the regulations are being met.
Yeah, we don't want to, right now we have the East Basin docks being redone. There's an RFP out. I think the funds to do it were approved last night. This is all part of that same large chunk of water that had Army Corps involvement. And we don't want to do anything that's going to jeopardize the city's use overall as well at the end of the day.
Well, the city, John, is currently located within the federal anchorage.
I understand.
That's been worked out with the Army Corps.
I know that.
Yeah,
East Basin,
right.
in East Basin. I know that.
But this project has not. And that's the only thing. So under the circumstances, I think we have to put a motion. We want to move forward with this, or we can certainly hash it out even more. That either we find it consistent or we don't find it consistent with the harbor management plan for reasons that we've already talked about.
Could I propose a motion, John, or just for
Yeah.
discussion?
Yeah.
To say that the commission has reviewed the pre-application plans and finds that elements of those plans are inconsistent with the harbor management plan. Specifically, the commission is concerned with the pre-existing encroachment of the applicant's docks into the extension of the extended city's First Street right-of-way and the proposed use of that extension of that encroachment for commercial purposes.
Right.
The commission recommends that the pre-existing encroachment be removed from the applicant's plans. In addition, it is a policy of the harbor management plan that no in-water structure or vessel tied to that structure should extend within 10 feet of the federal anchorage, federal navigation project in the East Norwalk Basin, with the exception of the city's East Norwalk Marina. Something like that.
Yeah, yeah,
Those are comments that
those-
could be provided to DEEP, and then they can continue the review, which we would
That's correct. Yeah.
then continue to participate in.
Would anyone like to, well,
But that's my suggestion, not trying to put word,
well, those are the topics, those are the topics of the hot points that we wanted to discuss. And
All right, so
Right.
John, John, that's your motion. Who's gonna second?
I'd like, yeah, I'll second it, but I also think we should just note that any approval of this does not constitute an approval of the encroachment to the north either. I don't think we're asking them to lop 2 feet off the north, but we're not retroactively approving the
Approving.
encroachment to the north.
Yeah, but we wouldn't be approving anything now, just expressing the inconsistency and.
Well, Sure.
well, yeah, we didn't mention that, but that would be that would be the third point to mention, Chris. I agree with you. Of extending.
Let's get it all on the table.
What was that third point?
That was for extending over the repairing on the north.
Okay, then, so then when we said you're specifically concerned about the extension in the south, we add also concerned about the apparent extension of the applicant's structures over the littoral line to the north?
North.
Right.
Okay,
We certainly note that. I mean, it's,
Okay.
assuming is that East Norwalk Yacht Club's riparian rights there. I mean, that's their business to enforce that. We're representing the city and we're speaking up for the city's rights to the First Street riparian rights.
but the plan also calls for protecting littoral rights, so that one property owner's exercise of littoral rights doesn't interfere with adjoining property.
Right.
And I think we should, that's why I want to note that. I don't,
Okay, as the third
That would be the
item,
third, that would be the
specifically-
third point.
Can I share a
Concern-
screen? Can I share my screen for a second? It's just an
Yes.
aerial of
Yes, yeah, you get, I think you should still have that right, Tom. I think you. There you go.
This is just an aerial, it's Google Earth, but it does show a vessel here and a vessel here. And if we know correctly, the line goes right through here. So, I mean, there's other people here that are.
Okay.
not- So I'm just saying, let's all be fair on what we're asking people to do across the board.
Mhm.
That's just
No, I
my
agree.
own comment.
Yep.
So I'll stop sharing. I just wanted to put that up.
Mhm.
Do you want to amend the motion to include Chris's amendment?
Yes.
A motion was made by Chris. Is there a second to Chris's amendment?
I'll second.
Alan.
All right,
Okay.
all in
Jeff?
favor of the
Jeff.
amendment?
Aye. Aye.
All in favor of the motion?
Motion. Aye.
Aye.
So carried. I mean,
Was it?
it looks
Okay.
unanimous to me.
All right. We'll move forward with that.
Okay, with that,
but
I
again-
appreciate your time.
Again, Tom, I think your point was well taken, Tom, on the encroachment of the other vessels on the neighboring property. But if you notice that the line that goes off a little bit more to the left, so a parallel parking, or parallel mooring is they're I think, well, we might have to see that as well within the mooring region, not in the anchorage area.
Jeff, that's not a permanent
No,
use, is it? Jeff?
I don't think so. Jeff?
Jeff
would you
Mangels?
comment?
I don't believe so. No.
Okay, so that could have been a transient guy coming in. Who knows? He could have even went to Overton's.
But I think, well, I hope not. He's on East Norfolk Yacht Club, Boat Club property. But I think, well, I know, I don't have the plans in front of me, but I think that the anchorage line goes off a little bit more to the left. So there, as you notice, there's an angle that's in that area that a boat is well within that, outside of the anchorage area. See, yeah. Yeah, right in there. But that's not the 10 feet. That's not a 10-foot setback, though. All right.
All right, any more on this application?
We appreciate Tom's professional
Yeah.
presentation and
Absolutely.
interaction with the commission.
Great, no, I appreciate you all spending your time getting through this.
Very
It's all a big
professional.
process, and we appreciate your expertise on it.
Thank you.
Bring us an easy one, will you, Tom?
You only hired me for the hard ones. Okay, thank you, though.
Tom, thank you,
Tom.
very much. All right, moving on here. We have 38 Yarmouth Road and Roaiton. This is a tentative determination to approve, and I think Mr. Hiltz is here. That's his project. And this is a proposal that we had reviewed about a month ago, 3 months ago, I believe, with regard to the addition of a, I'll read it here. Proposes to install masonry steps and widen an existing pre-1939 walkway within the coastal resource area. And accordingly, the applicant will install a 60-inch by 17-foot masonry stairwell by widening a 14-foot section of an existing concrete walkway 18 inches waterward, and remove a 2 cubic foot of ledge for upland disposal, and then add 2 cubic yards of masonry material. Mr. Hiltz is here. If you want to show that piece of property, I think this is, we had given, we had commented on this previously, but this is again, the comment for final approval by the DOT, by the DEP.
Hi, good evening. For the record, John Hiltz, representing Jeffrey Porges at 38 Yarmouth. Yeah, this was previously reviewed by your commission. It's now at the public notice state of, for the DEP. Basically, the applicant has limited access to the waterfront at his property. There's a pre-1939 walkway along the entirety of the waterfront in that area. And what he's proposing to do is basically, in essence, cut and fill the ledge area down to the existing beach at the foot of the ledge. It's really just simply removing some stone and then placing some stone and mortar to basically make a set of steps. The dimensions are, roughly, as called out, because the entire ledge area is irregular. So what he'll need to do is basically within the confines of that, geometry, he'll, work to basically establish the steps. So it's a smoother transition from the walkway itself down to it's kind of a gravel beach at the base of the ledge. The widening of the walkway is simply kind of a safety measure. There's a stairway there, the pre-existing stairway coming down from the applicant's upland down to meet the walkway. And we just felt that since we were going forward with the application in this regard, that we would include that so that there'd be kind of a wider passage there for people going, transiting back and forth along the waterfront.
John, can you show this to us again, please?
You have that,
yeah.
John? I have it here, but if you want, you've got the plans, you can show that.
Yeah, if you can share, I share the screen.
Michelle, will you give? Is Michelle on?
Yep, he should be able to share.
Okay, there you go.
There you go.
Yeah, that's the one I have in front of me. Yeah.
Very good. All right. You can see here, we just have the existing stairway I mentioned, and this is the area. I think I can actually bring this a little. Yes, very good. We're basically just bumping out this walkway. You can see it kind of turns in, and there's a narrow, there's a choke point right here between the bottom of the stairs and the face of the walkway.
Mm-hmm.
And then in this area, you can see the rock ledge kind of terminates at a gravel beach with some cobbles on it. And what the applicant's proposing to do is simply transition down by, in areas cutting the stone and in areas basically adding, some mortar and stone to make a set of, large steps, if you will, on grade.
Do any commission members have any question or comment?
No.
No. All right, would you like to move forward with this application?
Yes, make a motion.
All right, you can probably certainly make a motion to, the project proposal is consistent with the harbor management plan. You know,
So moved.
And again, there's no waterward construction, so there's no work vessels that are gonna be necessary for doing this. So all the work is gonna be done on land. And then again, that proper disposal of the material and it's gonna be made upland, I imagine, right?
Right, it's 2 yards at tops.
2 yards
and
of
so,
soil, right.
basically taking out in buckets.
And bucket, yeah. So if anyone has any other comments, we can move forward with that.
Yep. Is there a second?
Second that.
Alan seconded.
Okay,
All in favor?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstentions?
Okay.
Somebody that don't like the plan?
No, John, thank you very much on that. Okay, we'll move forward here. The last application is at Leventonet Circle, and Norwalk was this is a pre-submission application, and this was reviewed by us last month, and I had planned to put it on the agenda, which we finally did. Mr. Hiltz called my attention to it. We had waited to hear comments from the Shellfish Commission, and we had a question with regard to the positioning of the dock. John, if you have the application, you can hang that up, put that up, or I have it here.
I can, if you'd
Yeah.
like, I'll share the plan view.
Yeah,
It's now revised.
the way the original dock was, it was sort of centered very close to repairing, right away here, but now we centered it a little bit differently. That's correct. Yeah,
Oh, wrong one.
It took a turn.
took a turn.
It took a turn.
And I think, Mr. Bartish, I think Shellfish Commission has made comment on this as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
excuse me,
Yeah,
guys. I'm having technical difficulties here. Let me hide out for a second
Site
here.
inspection, Jim.
I'm sorry, Steve.
And that we would do a site inspection, so we would expect that in the next few days with the afternoon low tides,
I see.
before next Thursday's meeting for Shellfish.
There we go.
All right.
All right, again, we originally had the ramp and floating dock extending straight off the pier. After our last discussion, we basically angled the ramp at a 15-degree, to the center line of the pier. And that basically puts the floating dock, for all intents and purposes, in the middle. The reason why the 26 and 24 is simply I didn't want to have the ramp land exactly on the edge of the floating dock there. Basically this allows for a stock transition angle there on the angle plate for the ramp. And then this also just basically puts the floating dock again, essentially in the middle of the apparent literal rights area.
John, is that floating dock, because you have a lift, for what, is that for that same boat when not stored on the lift?
Well,
Or it's transient, or is it jet skis, or?
My understanding from the applicant is that it's basically a tidal thing. Obviously, there's not a lot of water there, so we utilize the float when there's tide in for storing the boat. Long term, we go to the lift.
Right. Okay.
Mhm.
Anybody else have any other questions or comments?
Guess what's the distance from basically the break wall or land until that 8x20 floating dock?
The distance from the break wall?
Yeah, from
From
basically
the
from the
wall to the face of the float?
yeah. How far does that extend? I guess.
Hold on a second. There you go. got about 115 feet. This is the section view or the elevation view. So you've got pier itself, 70 feet, 37 feet span, and then an 8-foot float.
Are there any further objections or comments or considerations for the proposal?
So you're gonna move that this is consistent with the plan? and move
Well,
it forward?
pending, pending submission by the Shellfish Commission,
Right,
that, they submit, that Shellfish Commission may submit a statement or comments and recommendations intended to mitigate any potential impacts that it might have on coastal resources, shellfish resources. And that that the recommendation should be addressed by the applicant.
But this is a pre-application,
This is a
John, so it's not
pre-application.
consistent with the plan. It's no objection.
No objection to moving forward.
to moving forward.
Did I say that? No objection to? I'll retract that.
I misstated it.
Oh, yeah. So again, we certainly wait, that'll be part of our comment that but we have no objection for the project moving forward at this time.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Any opposition?
Abstentions? So moved.
Moved. Okay. All right, that ends our actual formal application. We have one other issue to bring up before the commission, and that is discussion that we had this morning with DEP with regard to the overall Walk Bridge project. And we met with Mr. Grzlinski and this morning to discuss some of the potential issues that the commission is being faced with. And that was number one, the overall bridge project, as far as turbidity considerations, as far as during the project, and also the issues dealing with the 68 Water Street. What's going on, because if you recall, there are two applications for work in that area. One is by the owner itself, Mr. DiNardo, who proposes to reconstruct the bulkhead in that area there, and the DOT's use of that area for repositioning the two vessels between the Walk Bridge, the maritime vessel, and the Seaport Association vessel, potential use of that particular area there. So Mr. Grzlinski had asked us to perhaps make comment that reiterate some of our previous comments and to give him some of our input with regard to the project now, because he's in the process of now reviewing that entire project. And I think, Jeff, we had issued a number of points that we wanted to bring up.
Well, first of all, it was a very good discussion we had for over an hour to learn about the status of DEP's review of the Walk Bridge project and the Eversource project, which DEP had not heard from Eversource for over a year, I guess. And now they have essentially the same plan as was provided to the Harbor Commission last month.
Yeah, basically what we want to do is to have the commission grant permission from the commission to move forward with an all-inclusive letter, not an all-inclusive letter, but it's where we stand right now of comment with regard to the Walk Bridge project, some of the aspects of the Walk Bridge project dealing with turbidity, and then also the Eversource project, at that area as well.
Right. So with the understanding that these would be just additional comments that we have a right to make throughout the process and wouldn't affect our ability to continue to review this.
That's right.
But what we talked about several areas of interest, and as John mentioned, the 68 Water Street bulkhead is one, because DEP now has permit applications for replacing the bulkhead from two different applicants, DOT and the property owner. And that all has to be sorted out. So I think that we would want to transmit our continued interest and concern about how that bulkhead is sorted out. Also, there was concern that one of the of the proposals for the bulkhead, and I believe this is the one by the property owner, involves placing the vertical bulkhead at the toe of the existing riprap, rather than removing that riprap, which was the source of a violation some years ago. So I think we might want to.
It's going to cause encroachment. Is that very?
Yeah, so I think we might want to comment that we remain concerned and we need to clarify the difference between the two applications for the bulkhead at 68 Water Street. Also to emphasize, which we did today, that we will be providing recommendations to DEEP for mitigating turbidity impacts during the project. And that's based on the ongoing analysis of the DOT data that we're conducting. And that we would expect that our input on that would be considered as part of a permit condition for the project. We also learned today, or confirmed, that DOT is intending to use Manresa Island as a staging area. We have not reviewed or received any plans for that area, but we would want to have the opportunity to review plans for the use of Manresa Island. And one of our concerns would be that use does not affect the quality of life in nearby residential areas.
Let me stop you for a second, Jeff. One of the concerns was, based on the freshest aerial view we have, it shows that the tanks there are still, they were in that picture from February.
Yeah.
Chris, you may know, have those tanks been removed?
No. Chris
McDonald?
Nothing's been done on Manresa. I have a very bad internet connection right now. If you can.
Yeah, we can hear you, Chris. Yeah, but no, those tanks are still there, John.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we would want to transmit our interest, again, reviewing plans on Manresa Island to make sure that the adjoining neighborhoods aren't adversely affected, and the ongoing remediation work, or soon to be ongoing remediation work, is not affected.
And
The
also,
reason I asked that question is because DEEP thought they were taken out.
Yeah, and the other topic, of course, is the vessel relocation proposal by DEEP. And we thought that we might reiterate the opposition previously expressed by the commission and the harbor master to operation of those passenger vessels between the bridges during the duration of the work. And another topic that we might want to express our interest in is that we learned that DOT will need to anchor more construction vessels throughout the project, along south of the visitors dock, in the south anchorage, and then in the outer harbor. And we made clear that the anchoring of those and mooring of those vessels will require a permit and be subject to orders from the harbor master to protect coastal resources and navigation.
Jeff, is that well, that's right. I thought that they had mentioned to us that we don't have that authority.
Oh, no, we have all the mooring of all vessels, whether it's a commercial vessel or recreational, is subject to a permit from the harbor master.
And Coast Guard as well.
Yes. And then the other topic, of course, was the Eversource project. And we talked about the need to include in any DEEP permit that's issued a condition that if the city needs to repair, replace, enhance the visitors dock, it will not be those efforts will not be adversely affected by the Eversource line. And if it is, then Eversource has to mitigate or pay or compensate the city. And that's something that the Corps of Engineers, a similar condition will be put in the Corps of Engineers permit with regard to affecting maintenance of the federal channel. And so Mr. Grzywinski thought it was appropriate to put a similar condition in the DEEP permit with regard to the visitors dock. And in fact, when we looked up the history of the Common Council's discussion of this, going back to October of 2018, the council agreed that Eversource could go forward with an application with just that condition, an agreement that the city would not be, the city's ability to maintain the dock and replace it would not be affected. those were the principal things we talked about. We thought it would be useful to highlight those concerns in a letter to Deep now, since we haven't interacted with them for a long time. And then the last thing, and we didn't mention it today, but it's another pending issue, is how does DOT intend to mitigate the impact on the archaeological resource that they found over in the Liberty Square area? We've heard nothing about that. So but that's another item that's addressed in the harbor management plan.
Right.
So we thought that it would be, if the commission agreed, we could send comments on such as what I just mentioned in a letter to DEEP now.
Anyone have any comments, or perhaps moving forward with that?
Well, I'd like to see a motion to move forward to enhance comments and input as needed. And it was a request from DEP.
Right, that's
To
correct.
be on the front side of this
Right.
rather than
The back
go
side.
through review and send it back. It's more expedient for them, DOT, and us.
Right, and it doesn't negate our ability to review and make comment for, as we move forward on this project.
And they acknowledged the fact that they've got two sets of proposals for the
Well, they're fully aware of
boats.
that. They're still scratching their head on that one too. Yeah,
For the boats, but it was better to have Plan A and Plan B within this submission, again, for expediency overall.
Joe, you
Yes,
got
Joe?
a comment?
Yeah, John, I think you want to put in that letter a concern I have about the turbidity testing that they did. They put a turbidity meter on a pole off the bottom, but no depth was specified. The problem with that is you have issues with how close it is to the surface and how close it is to the bottom, and the impact that has on turbidity. They should have put, just like USGS did, one on the bottom, about a meter off the bottom, and consistently there, and then have a surface, because you will get two different readings for turbidity. They did not do that. So you've got a broad range of turbidity because of the discrepancies with the tide coming in and going out.
Joe, these are very good points. Jeff, didn't Tom Hart use the data, that same data?
I hear what Joe's saying. My suggestion would be that that's an example of a recommendation or an issue we would raise when we submit our turbidity recommendations and comments. Right now, we would just be putting them on notice that those comments are going to be forthcoming, and we expect that DEEP will address them. I think the detail of what Joe just said is beyond, the level of detail that we would put into the letter now.
I know, but what's concerning me now, based on what Joe's comments are, that the data that were used was based on just those numbers.
Correct.
Well, we have to figure that out now. We can't.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's a very good comment, Joe, and I can certainly see. Yeah. So.
And then that could be something in our report or our recommendations.
Well, that's a concern, because the data, the same input of the data is the same, and so if you're using the same.
It could just as simply be ongoing concerns about the modus operandi and how the turbidity testing was done.
Right. Okay.
Just as a heads up that we have a concern about it, because DEEP referenced the reports from Hart as well, and he knows there's going to be additional work done by Hart. And DEEP is aware of that.
Well, somehow we're gonna have to wordsmith that one, Jeff.
Yeah. What John just said.
All right. No, thank
Okay.
you.
Any more input? So we'll get a letter out. Again, this is just a heads up from our concerns and our thoughts and what we know that may be problematic. So it could be addressed now in its entirety. And then we can drill into the nitty gritty once the overall vast plan is approved.
Okay.
Because we got another bite at this apple to drill in on the various components. And we're working, as we all know, at a disadvantage because it's a bulk submission of hundreds of pages that really need to be scrutinized and more in depth later on.
All right. We'll
So there was a motion put forward to put that letter forward. There was, is there a second, please?
Second.
Laurie, okay.
Chris
Aye.
McDonald, all in favor?
All right, no, aye.
Any
Sorry,
opposed?
Mr. Romano, I missed, who made that motion?
Chris
Chris McDonald.
Okay,
John
Chris
Pinto.
made the motion and,
I may have
John Pinto
seconded,
made the
sorry.
motion. Chris McDonald seconded, and now we're voting on it. And it seemed like, are there any objections? Any abstentions? It was a unanimous vote to move forward with the comment.
I'm sorry, you're breaking up. Could you repeat that again? I
Okay.
could see you talking, but couldn't hear a thing.
It's a unanimous vote to move forward with the recommendations.
Okay, and Chris McDonald second, who moved it?
Pinto moved it.
Okay, thank you.
McDonald seconded.
Sorry.
Okay,
Well, that's end of application review.
all right. Well,
Moving forward.
you know, we all, and we're on to Chairman's report. We all listened to and inputted and schooled, so to speak, the consultants that we met with a few weeks ago on a Zoom call. And it was enlightening to me, anyway, I'll say that overall. And the impression I got was that it was enlightening to the consultants as well, Mr. Love. So I think it was a positive what took place, and that's notwithstanding the direction that they're moving this project, these consultancies towards, whether it'll be palatable or not. But I think we're on a sound footing, at least at this point, until we hear further. I'd welcome anybody and everybody to weigh in. Just let me know who wants to speak up in terms of how they felt that meeting went.
Well, if I can just make one comment on that, but I think the way these consultants are moving is that it's like herding cattle. What they're doing is they're putting certain recommendations and corrals around what we do and herding us into one particular direction. And I'm not sure if
That's called leading us down a garden path.
yeah. So
Okay, Chris, you wanted to weigh in?
Well, so we're talking about I watched the whole thing on YouTube afterwards. I wasn't able to attend it in person, and I CC'd you. I followed up with them on some of the information they were looking at about 108 Water Street and tried to put them in touch with Gary Wetmore, which it sounded like they already had in process, which is great. But I don't know why, looking at the waterfront commercial properties in general, we don't look at Manresa at this time and about what it could potentially be. It's oddly zoned AA or B, or I think it's B. It's a B residential zone now. So, that would have to be rezoned at some point to do something else there. Commercial marina was part of the study that was done by the City and Manresa Association. So just to say that, we're not looking at that now. It seems short-sighted not to. If you're segregating off just commercial marine and not look at something that is that large and that potentially impactful on, on what's going on, is there enough marine commercial property? Is there too little? Is there too much? Does it, is there room to expand it to Manresa?
Chris,
It doesn't make sense to exclude it.
I agree with you entirely, but having said that, I can also understand that anything and everything that happens at Manresa is going to be contentious, and contentious leads to lawsuits and/or time. And I think they're looking to rush this to completion and rush whatever they have in mind to facilitate some kind of agendas that are in play. That's my thought. Because Manresa, although I agree with you that it should be part of this study, would complicate it very much.
Sure. Well, I think it would have to be its own set of recommendations. I mean, whatever happens with Manresa, there has to be, there's several steps. It's not just, if they're looking to rezone some stuff, but they should make recommendations about Manresa in terms of marine commercial with, in conjunction with what's happening in studying and looking at the rest of the marine commercial in the city. I don't think it can be done. I don't think you can put things in too many different silos, too many different corrals, and then you're not managing, globally.
Well, that's what's taking place now, because there are 4 studies that overlap each other.
That's the thing that.
So,
John,
anybody else want to weigh in, Joe?
yeah, John,
Are you going to tell us about the flood zone?
yes.
Okay.
I mean, it just, the irony of him saying, oh, we can build in a flood zone tells it, I mean, it's like, why? Why are we doing this to ourselves? It makes no logical sense other than greed.
That may be an underlying factor. They haven't so far cured the high tide northeast storm phenomenon of Water Street either.
Correct.
Very evident yesterday. It was
Yes.
closed. It wasn't just wet.
Anybody else have any input to how they felt the tri-meeting went? Okay, other than that, then let's move right along. And Harbor Master Greg Scully.
Hey,
Hello.
Chairman Romano, sorry, it's Michelle. Sorry to cut you off. I just wanted to, on the agenda, and going back to the waterfront study we're just talking about,
Yeah.
hearing committee is meeting for the first time for that study on November 6th, and there is one commissioner from the Harbor Commission that could be eligible to participate in the steering committee. So I know we wanted to kind of just run that with the commission before we selected. I think you had mentioned maybe John Pinto being.
Well, I thought we were going to get more than one. That was my impression. And now you're saying we're being relegated to one.
Yeah.
Especially, so, I mean, I personally would, because of continuity, would love to see Pinto in conjunction with our consultant, because our consultant holds a lot of keys to the history and the underlying that's very much a part of what the study is about.
Hey, John,
And
why are we only allowed to have one? Is there a
I don't
reason for
know.
that?
I thought we were going to get two minimum, 3 potentially.
How many people are on this committee, and why wouldn't, if it's based on interactions with the harbor management committee have a decent, sitting at the table?
Seat at the table, yeah.
Sure. So Steve Kleppen, he has selected Steve Bardish from Shellfish, and then one person from, so there's just one from each commission.
And how many other people are on this
I
ad
think
hoc?
8 people total. I'm maybe.
And the others are from where?
So this was a rollover, since this is like the continuation of the industrial zone study that happened previously. So it's many people that were in that steering committee. So I think
These were planning people?
Sorry?
These were members of the planning commission or members of the zoning commission?
Yeah.
How many members are they represented on each one of those commissions?
One from zoning, one from common council. I think there is one from redevelopment, one from Sabrina. She's from, I think, redevelopment. and then one from planning.
Oh, so
Yeah,
it's-
I'd like to go
Usually
on a
just one.
record, that I think we're being shortchanged, big picture, because the bulk of these meetings are water related. And we're the water.
Sure, yeah,
So I would love to see a minimum of 2, and really on a practical basis, at least 3 members from the commission or our consultant to be involved.
And my recommendation, John, would be that there's 2 members of the commission and the consultant.
Well, that's basically what I'm saying too. We're great minds think alike, man.
And who on the Harbor Management Commission is on the general industrial rezoning steering committee?
I don't think there's anybody.
There was none.
There was none. So, yeah, all right.
You know, so they had all these different studies that were commissioned, and they have a continuity of people on all these different studies, and yet on the big picture, we're being brought in on the tail end for a study that specifically is working on things that we're directly related with, and why we're being shortchanged as far as representation is concerned is kind of concerning, because it's our input that will help tailor the flavor of the other participants in this. Now, I don't know if those other participants all were at our triple meeting, and the presentation that we gave was very enlightening to all that did participate, particularly the consultants. And for them to not have the benefit of our input would you know, it's kind of concerning, Michelle. It really is. And I hope you express that to Steve and also to the consultants. And I think big picture, based on our last meeting with them, the consultants may even agree that they need a greater input from the Harbor Commission, because that's what they're drilling into in this particular study. That's what they're drilling in.
Right, and this is, we're still in the beginning of process of the waterfront plan, and there was full intention of obviously having Shellfish and Harbor Commission be a part of the process for the industrial waterfront. The industrial plan was more based on the industrial uses inland. So when they were going through that study, they selected out the waterfront from the get-go and said, this is a separate study. So then
I get that they had 8
Well,
people.
I would stop right there and say that the heaviest industrial in South Norwalk is on Village Creek and Wilson Ave, and immediately adjacent to the water. It's not commercial waterfront, but it is immediately adjacent to wetlands. So I think there's a missed opportunity there as well. And I think it's wrong to say that it's inland. A lot of it, almost all within the CAM, and a lot of it is immediately adjacent to the wetlands. So I think that you missed the mark was missed there as well.
You're absolutely correct, Chris. You're absolutely correct on that.
Before I forget, Michelle, can you remove Mike Silva off our email listing? Unfortunately, the Marine Police have lost Mike as a member
okay.
of that
department. I took him off, John, for our little daisy chain from the commission.
Right, but just a big picture, he's been relegated to back to patrol.
No, he's just doing patrol, land patrol.
That's what I just said.
No, but you made it sound as if he's been demoted. He's not.
No. He's not demoted. Whatever rank he has. They segued him because of
They
need.
just want to put him on land rather than on the water. That's all.
No,
Yeah, they
haven't-
took a half a dozen.
There's a need on land. That's why he was moved over, because of all
That's
the
correct.
resignations in the
Right.
police department.
Right. You made it sound like it was a demotion here.
No.
It was being, no, it's not.
That wasn't my intention, and I don't know if anybody else took it.
I'm sorry if I read it.
It was segued over to doing road work, to the road. So, Greg, would you like to chime in, please?
Sure. Nothing to report. Everything's pretty much status quo here. Nothing going on. Boat traffic, of course, has slowed down and whatnot, but that's about it, really. Just nothing to report on it.
Now, do you know what
And
the?
for Silva, just to clarify, he's been reassigned back to community policing.
Right. But that brings up the question, are do they fully intend on restaffing and enhancing the staff of the Marine Police? Because there's gonna be.
No.
Once.
Not till the season starts again.
Right, no, that's what I'm talking about. Not now, there's not a greater need, but once my major concern is when the project for the walk bridge gets going, there's gonna be a lot of supervision from.
Oh, yeah.
the Marine Police that's gonna be mandated.
Right. They're just doing it for the winter time. It's slower down there anyway.
Right, okay,
So,
Are we still on the
Anything
harbor
else?
master issue?
yes.
John, I'm sorry, Greg, you got the application from Sprite Island?
I did
Okay, good.
see that.
All right, because I'll put that on the agenda for next month.
Okay. Yes. Yep.
All right, so
And then
we'll-
I also got the letter for the guy Dave. I got that from Dennis forwarded, that wants to join in as to do the moorings, like Tom Rutherford and Norm Edwards do. I mean, at this point, I don't think we're all that busy to add another one to it. I mean, we could use them in a backup as an emergency, but between the two of them and Norm Bloom that helps out, I think we're in pretty good shape.
well, that's your call.
Yeah, we haven't come to a point where we're so backlogged trying to get new moorings in or new moorings inspected. If that does come about, then we can toss around the idea of adding another member to it.
Well,
Greg, if I may just add my 2 cents,
Sure.
I think keep them in the background because at times both current inspectors we have now get bogged down because there's a lot of applications that are not completed with respect to inspection. So, maybe we can use them in a pinch when we need it, but I don't think we should tell them to go walk.
No. That's what I said. We'll keep them. That's what I said. We'll keep them on reserve in case when we need them, we'll pull them. But if these guys, if the two that we're using now can't get to them and at a point in time, then we could just get this guy on and pull him doing the inspections.
They're doing a great job, but it could be quicker.
Yeah.
Do the mooring holders pay for the inspection, or does the city pay for do the?
No, the holders pay for the inspection.
So do they?
It's their
Do
responsibility.
they contact them directly and contract the work, or does it?
Yes, they do. They do. They know that. Well, they know that when they renew their application, it won't go through on the application if it shows that inspection is due. So then they have to contact.
So it's an approved vendor list. We're not giving Norm or anybody else to work directly.
No, it's
correct.
It's
an
the
approved
mooring
vendor.
holder that has to. Well, they also have to. The thing is, they have to have access to the system, to the online mooring system. They have to get registered,
Sure.
I guess, to the company that does it, so they can get into the system and actually go into it, mark off that they've done them, they've inspected them, and signed off.
Correct. Right. So yes, you as harbor master have the authority to approve them as a vendor. They have to be capable of doing the inspection work, and you have to give them access to the system. But the mooring holders themselves are responsible for getting the mooring inspected. Correct?
Yes.
They actually purchased the mooring tackle mooring.
Correct. So it's I mean, to have 3 or 4, it doesn't matter to us as long as they're a capable inspector. You're just giving the consumer more choice.
Right, and like Dennis said, they have to buy their own tackle. So I don't know if this guy Dave, has access to sell tackle or whatnot. That I'm not sure of. Because I know Tom,
maybe we can acquire and just as keep that in our back pocket, so to speak.
Who's this person?
Dave, I can't remember his last name.
I can't either, to be honest with you. I don't have the paperwork.
No, he's come up to me quite a few times over the years. And
Where
asked
is
me
he from?
about, you know, he lives on Baxter Drive off of
Oh,
Woodward.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But, you know, he's approached me for like diving things too, you know, needing help diving and boat cleaning and stuff. I guess he does that too for certain people.
Oh,
Yeah.
or something with an O, Dave.
I want to say it starts with a C for some reason.
Let's call him Dave Comasagam so far. All right, let's move right along. Anything else?
Can you email? There's somebody that we should avoid, and I don't want to give any wrong impressions in a recorded meeting. So if you could email us the name, and if I have any feedback for you, I'll give it.
I have a feeling I know who you mean. But yeah, I'll contact you offline and go through that.
Anything else, Greg?
Scully, am I still on that list too from the Spread Island side?
Do you have access to the website to go in?
Yeah, I know when Tony initially set that up, I was kind of the sounding board as he was creating it.
Yeah, Tony doesn't have access, I don't believe, to get into there. It has to be.
No, that was just the beginning.
Yeah, I forget the woman's name offhand, but she's the one that has to actually secure you in and give you access to it.
What was your question, Matt?
No, I thought I was originally on the list with Norm and Tom, going back from the days when we were doing everything with the original dredging and inspections and stuff like that.
That I don't know.
Well, I just know people were calling me all nonstop in that time frame, and I probably get half a dozen calls a year now.
Do you have the equipment to pull the moorings and stuff?
Yeah, no, I mean we've done quite a few of them. Not just in our own. As a harbor master for Sprite, we do ours in and out every year, but we also take care of a lot of people in that area.
Okay.
Good to know.
Yeah, I mean, well, I'll touch base with the Scully offline and we can talk about it. But I send most of the inquiries to Tom and Norm, who are doing it as a profession. But we do. I mean, I've got myself and probably 3 other guys that are on my team that we've been doing it for 20 years or so. So we're pretty well versed on it.
Okay. Yeah, as long as you guys can inspect them and sign off on them, that's fine.
I mean, most of the time it's, the person calls and it's a Friday night and they want to drop something before Sunday. It's like, well,
yeah, of course.
I'm not trying to make your problem my problem, but I'll see what I can do to help.
Right.
Oh yeah, no, that Norman gets those calls all the time. Last minute. But
you all set, Greg?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to, Jeff, do you have anything to input? Jeff Stedman?
Well, I might say a couple of things. Tony Mobilia's wife, Dorothy, is leaving Norwalk to move to Florida to be with her son.
Yeah,
we'll talk with her before she leaves, but that's a big step for her because they were so connected with the community and Tony with the harbor and with boating. And we had talked when Tony passed away about thinking if there was some tribute we could make to him by naming perhaps a public facility in Norwalk Harbor after him. We haven't continued to think about that. We also talked about, and this is my responsibility, which I haven't finished yet, preparing an outdoor panel, such as we did for shellfishing in John Frank at Calf Pasture, but something on the harbor management plan with recognition of Tony's role in preparing the plan and long-time service. So I think that's something that my suggestion is that we think about a proper way to honor Tony. Excuse me. Maybe by naming a boating facility after him. But
well, the East Basin would be a very logical, practical place to do it with that all being redone.
Yes, and that was where Tony kept his boat and where he spent so much time.
That's where he had his attack as well, isn't it?
Yes.
So,
and then So look, maybe we can put our heads together and come up with something very positive to recognize him. And the other bit of sad news is a member of the Water Quality Committee who we worked with for many years, Jim Bartley, passed away suddenly last week. And he was quite involved with the Norwalk River Watershed Association when he moved to Norwalk some years ago, and with the Water Quality Committee. So I think we should all recognize, and like Tony, Jim was, he was like a person that was interested in the public interest, and that when he worked on he was actually an original member of the Harbor Commission in Stamford before he moved to Norwalk. But he was an example of someone who worked for the public interest and was an example for everybody else who would do the same. And so I think we just have him and his family in our thoughts as well. I don't mean to sound like a downer tonight, but there's positives in both of those stories that we can learn from. But thanks, John, for letting me talk about that.
Thank you. I'm going to suggest, it's been 2 hours. Let's take a 5-minute break, please.
Yeah.
I know I need one. So let's come back in 5 minutes. All right, I apologize to everybody. I didn't make any espresso for any of you guys, but I had a big.
I sort of figured, John, that's what you're going for.
You know me and my espressos, John, huh?
I got you. A little anisette?
Nah, a little Splenda.
Okay. you ever have any Strega, speaking of the season?
Oh, yeah, Strega, Etazad,
All right,
Sambuca.
hey,
You know, what's good too is also Frangelico.
Frangelica, yeah?
Hazelnut, right?
Yeah, Amaretta, yeah, hazelnut, yeah.
Yeah, Amaretta too is good. All right, so I guess we could continue with shellfish.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll go quickly. So 11 Tenetta and 8084 Seaview were heard by the Shellfish Commission. The Shellfish Commission resolved to have a site visit for both. We do have some upcoming low tides in the next several days before and after noon. Please, the usual suspects, Mr. Kibbe and perhaps Mr. Mangles as well, over for the Seaview Avenue one. Your last months or 2 months ago, your site inspection presentation was great. And you can fill us in on some more info there as well, make it go faster. The Shellfish Commission would also like to thank Mr. Stedman for his procurement of 19th century natural shellfish bed maps. And these data did include the 26 Shorefront Park area. Yesterday, in a 24-hour period, we received over 3 inches of rain, closing all commercial and recreational shellfish beds. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back and eat Norwalk shellfish, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Dennis?
I don't, I don't have much of a report.
Jeff, you had a comment? I mean,
Not to be talking so much, but before we get off the shellfish, Michelle, could I share my screen just for a minute?
Yep, you should be all set.
All right. And then just real quickly, and this is this is the 1889 map of Western Long Island Sound, and this I just cut out the title block, so I'll go through this quickly, the presentation that we were making. But here's a scan, and the scan is at a very high resolution. I added the arrow to Norwalk Harbor and Long Island Sound, but how they prepared this map in 1889 is sort of beyond me. But if we zoom in on Norwalk, you can see the level of detail. And so at that time in 1889, you can see the jurisdictional line between local oyster ground committees in the state of Connecticut was established by that time. And that goes from headland to headland. So outside of that, the state at that time had already leased substantial acreages of shellfish grounds for commercial purposes. And all this red color denotes the Superior Court designated natural shellfish beds. So I'm just zooming in a little bit. I'll just do this very quickly. But here is, if you go into Norwalk Harbor, it's very interesting to see the shoreline in 1889, and the navigation channel was dredged at that time. And you can see even how the depths of that go up into here. But this shows that all of the Norwalk Inner Harbor was designated by the Superior Court as a natural shellfish bed, which means it has certain, that there are certain legal rights, or if that's the right word, that apply to that area. And the Shorefront Park proposal to dredge in an area that's never been dredged before has to be reviewed in part for its impact on this court designated natural shellfish bed. But I just, sorry to take your time up, but I just thought that the detail of that map is very, very interesting. And to think how they did it at how they made the map at that time. But anyway, thank you for.
Does agriculture have a copy of that map?
Oh, yes. Well, yes. We were searching for this. It's not the original map that was filed with the Superior Court in 1882, but it's a map that was prepared by the state of Connecticut, incorporating what was on that original map. And we have the court approved descriptions of the boundaries of the natural beds. And so the Bureau of Aquaculture took those descriptions and made a contemporary map showing where, for example, Track 2 in Norwalk Harbor is.
Right.
Now, when we were reviewing or have been reviewing the proposal for 26 Shorefront Park, the attorney for the applicant was not able to find the original map and questioned, I think it's fair to say, raised the question about its existence. But now we have that official map of the state of Connecticut. And is it very interesting? It was prepared as part of a Connecticut Bureau of Labor report, in which they talk quite at length about the developing oyster industry in Connecticut. And of course, there's much reference to what was the industry in Norwalk. So anyway, it's part of the history of Norwalk Harbor, and it's quite fascinating. But yes, the aquaculture has this, and we got this through the University of Connecticut Sea Grant program that's been helping the Shellfish Commission try to track down some of these old maps. But anyway, thanks again for listening.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting.
So now we know we're on solid ground, certainly in anything that we propose from here on in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dennis?
I don't have much to report. As you know, the season is winding down. The only thing I have is we received a final check from Norwalk Yacht Club, and I sent that over, or deposited it over to the controller's office. I'm sure Al got the notice or knows about that. And that's all I have.
Okay, and harbor safety as well, nothing to report?
Yeah, I have no issues or concerns that I know about. Yes.
All right, finance, Alan?
Yeah, thank you, John. I missed my connection with the data from the city this week, so I don't have any update from last month's report at this time.
All right, you want to do a newsletter as well? Website?
Yeah, I have no report there.
Okay, so plans and recommendations. Jeff, I know you have a nice little report.
Yeah, well, not. I wish I did. So nothing from Jessica back. I know that some of the things that we needed to do was contact Deep or give them a contact for Deep. I know that some emails went back and forth between yourself and me and Mr. Stedman, Mr. Pinto too, I believe. But I haven't heard a word back.
So have you passed off those contact points to Jessica or the attorney?
I do not have those contact points.
I'll send them tomorrow, Jeff. Sorry about that.
Okay, unless I missed something. Did I miss an email? I'm sorry if I did.
Well, there was remarks in there that should have been passed off to them and thoughts.
I apologize. Okay.
No, Jeff, if you can, to Jessica Casey and the city attorney, which was that Callahan?
It could be. I'd have to check the email. Correct.
I think it is Callahan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can quickly do that. I mean, that's no big deal.
Okay, just
the
get that
subject,
off. Yeah.
I will. I think the subject line was incorrect. I may have.
Yeah, because and then what we need to enforce or reinforce the thought that we understand that the rest of this may take some time, but we want to put in right now immediately for increasing of the dock of the moorings.
The mooring fees.
As a standalone to this other bigger project, because that's going to take some more time.
That's correct. That was the plan, to go ahead and move forward with mooring increase, and then go ahead and start working on the phase 2, if you will.
Right, and the mooring component would be, as we proposed in that particular total package, of $100 per mooring, correct?
$100 per mooring for managed fields. It would be a 25% discount, correct?
Right. Okay. Let's see. Water quality. Giuseppe Schneiderlein. You gotta unmute yourself, Joe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to follow up what Jeff started with the unfortunate and untimely death of Jim. We now have a vacancy on the Water Quality Committee. So we'll be looking around to see who's out there and who might be interested and who can help contribute to it. The other thing is, last week I sent out 15 recommendations that the Water Quality Committee had whittled down, and we sent them to City Hall, to the Common Council, and to other politicians in the area, and I think you guys should have gotten a copy of it too. And hopefully the city will take a look at the recommendations and hopefully move forward with them. We'll see what happens. That's it, John.
All right, thank you very much. We always have bridges on there, and that's kind of like with Tony Mobilia's stick, and I really prefer to keep it on there a little longer for every time I look at it, I think of Tony Mobilia. So we're at the point of public comment. I don't see anyone there, but if there is somebody, please raise your hand if you want to be recognized. Linnell, I see you're on there. Do you want to tell us what a great job we're doing again, or make a comment? Yep, she raised her hand. You're on mute. Okay. Go ahead, Linnell. Linnell?
Hey, John, I don't see your name listed here.
Yeah, she's as an attendee, and she did raise her hand, and she's been unmuted by Michelle. So if she unmutes her own computer, then she can speak up. Well, Linnell, you can chime in anytime. We'll move along and go to
John, what I don't understand, why isn't she listed as one of the participants on the list?
She's not a panelist, she's an attendee.
She's an
If you look to the right. she's
Yeah.
an
Oh,
attendee.
I see.
There you
And
go.
she has her hand up.
All right, so let's go to the approval of the minutes. Have the minutes been reviewed and amended? Or does anybody want to make any comments about the minutes at this point?
Well,
Make a
John,
motion to approve, John, if there are no other comments.
I'll second.
All in favor?
no,
Aye.
I reviewed.
Aye.
Mitch reviewed them.
Objections, abstentions?
Oh.
So moved. I haven't seen Linnell jump in yet. If you're there, Linnell, please do.
She's connecting to her audio right now, it says.
Okay.
No?
All right, so at this point, she may be having technical difficulties. I'm sure she's a habitual and a loyal follower of our meetings, and I'm sure she'll have something to weigh in on sometime in the near future. I'll entertain Jeff, you want to say something?
Yeah, just quickly, do we want to consider a State of the Harbor meeting this year in early December? Or should we think about planning for that? It would require, I guess.
We're in COVID mode. So I mean, what might be as appropriate is to do a mass invitation to one of our meetings that's going to have a light agenda, I think, and then we can go over some of the concerns and things that we're dealing with, and unless the voice of the body says that they feel we need a separate meeting. But I don't see the city rushing to go to public meetings.
Well,
and Norwalk is still in mask mode, where Stanford they dropped their mask requirement yesterday. Norwalk is still going to continue it. So
can I make a recommendation that we, as far as pursuing our State of the Harbor, that we spearhead some sort of presentation to the Common Council?
Well, I I've laid that groundwork as well as you have, John, with some of the councilmen.
Mhm.
And I think it's something that, Michelle, if you could help us and guide us, which committee we should get in front of the council. And you had the pleasure of seeing our presentation that was done at that triad meeting. We'd like to present that to the, whether it's Parks and Recs or DPW or any other committee that may be the most appropriate, to have them review it. And we'd love to be able to give that presentation on a light night to the full Common Council. I think it behooves people that are in a position of public trust to actually fully understand the overall workings of our harbor, what the Harbor Commission does, and how we look out for the betterment of the citizenry in general, and the continuation of our commercial marinas, boat repairs, shellfish industry, and not necessarily in that order, but we're out there as watch guards and doing what's good for the public at large. And
Well, doesn't
even
each,
people that live inland appreciate the fact that they're living in a coastal city and
Now,
the benefits that it has. Go ahead, Chris.
yeah, I'll just add to that. I mean, this is an opportune time because there is an election coming up. There'll be new council members. I'm not sure when they're sworn in,
That's
how
correct.
soon after the election. And it's certainly new council members who, as well as existing ones, it would stand the most to gain from understanding what our mission is and what the harbor management plan is, et cetera.
Right, exactly. The election is in less than a week. It's next Tuesday. And they traditionally swear in the new members at the following council meeting, which is generally 2 weeks later.
Okay, so very soon, yeah.
Yeah, so it is very soon. And you know, there is going to be a lot of turnover, even if you remain the status quo in terms of Ds and Rs. There's a lot of Ds that have not been supported by their own party that are not moving forward. They're segueing out, and there's a lot of new blood and new people to the town that are running. Then I'm not saying I'm weighing in whether that's good, bad, or indifferent, but these people need to know what the real underlying effect the harbor has on the viability of all kinds of things, and in particular our bonding, that we're a working harbor. So that those things are very, very important for them to understand it and grasp and embrace.
well, if
So-
the fact that they carry out their meetings at the Common Council meeting, if you look behind them, they can see where the direction leads.
Right. So if you have some suggestions for us, Michelle, and you can guide us in the right direction and get us on one of these committees' agendas.
Or I can definitely inquire to staff and try and get that done.
All right, perfect. Thank you. We appreciate it. And this is something that should have happened a long time ago, but there's no time like the present, especially with all the studies that are being done.
Also, John, do we need to do anything in terms of the Walk Bridge project with, I know we've sent the mayor and common council, dozens of letters about our concerns, but isn't this also an opportunity if we do get in front of them about what the scope or the challenges or the questions and concerns that we still have outstanding
That's
about?
part of the that's part of the presentation, Matt.
Yeah.
Okay, I
so
didn't know
they'll-
how deep you were gonna get into that.
No, they'll have an understanding of what we do and what we've done, and that we're pro DOT and the project moving forward at this point without any reservations, because it's a fait accompli, that it's bonded out, the process is ongoing, but we want it done in such a fashion that it's not going to affect our shellfish industry and or boat traffic, and safety is one of our major concerns as well. So these are all watch guard items for the users and the appreciators of our coastline. So do I have a motion to adjourn?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Second,
Seconded.
favor? Thank you. Great meeting tonight, guys.
Hey, John.
Yes.
John, I just sent you and Jeff an email, and Steve, I also sent you an email. Steve Shellfish.
Okay, cool.
Okay, and then just comment on that, and then we'll go from there.
All right, perfect. Thank you
Okay,
so much.
cool. Yep.
Appreciate it.
Jeffrey, you could have sent out that map you were talking about, the historic map of the shellfish bed.
Jeff Stedman.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jeff, I think what he's asking is send that to the whole commission. So we have it in our files.
All right.
Well, I'd like the original so that I could frame it and put it on my wall, but that's other than that.
I think Norm Bloom has dibs on it.
Ah,
You're gonna have to dig that one out, Jeff.
yeah.
That's,
Gosh.
that's
All right.
That's
All right,
nice.
guys. Thank
You
you.
take care.
Have a good night.